Hey, everybody. How's it going? One by one, one by one. Yeah, go ahead. So welcome so much. Here we go. Welcome to TIFF Bell Lightbox. My name is Bridget, and I'm the manager of Youth and Community Initiatives here, and I'm very, very excited to welcome you to today's very special event, Non-Conforming, Celebrating Fluidity Onscreen and IRL. Super cool. To begin, we would like to acknowledge that today's event is taking place on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of New Credit and the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and the Huron-Wendat. We are very grateful to have the opportunity to gather and work together on their land. On behalf of TIFF, I would also like to thank our lead sponsor, Bell, our major sponsors, RBC, L'Oreal Paris, and Visa, and our public supporters, the Government of Canada, the Government of Ontario, and the City of Toronto. As a charitable organization, we would also like to thank our donors and members for making TIFF's year-round programming and our educational and community outreach initiatives possible. A couple of reminders: we ask that you please place your phones on silent or like a low vibrate. During the Q&A, there'll be an opportunity to ask a lot of questions, and we're excited to hear them, but just wait for the mic to get around so that everyone can hear you. Our event today is a special one. It celebrates young creators who are taking space online by creating radical, self-expressive film and media that builds community and challenges the limits of mainstream gender representation. We're so honored to have such an accomplished group of creators joining us to screen and talk about their work this afternoon and consider how we all can create and embrace content and platforms that make space for bigger, brighter, and better expressions of multiple and complex identities everywhere and also in the media. You can clap for that. I want to clap for that. So a quick note about the format of today's event. The creators are going to join us on stage to tell us a little bit about who they are, what they work on, and how they work also, and some of the media and creators that have inspired them. We have a long legacy, and it's always exciting to talk about it. And then we'll screen their work all in a row, and then we're going to open it up and reconvene to talk about the films and open up to you all to chat about your questions and whatever things you want to be talking about. So we're really excited to host that kind of conversation. We're also really happy that today's event is presented in partnership with Pride Toronto. I don't know if you guys know, but it's Pride. Right now, yeah. That's why we're so busy and enjoying air conditioning. So this is part of their Human Rights series, and we'd like to extend a huge thank you to the Pride team for their collaboration on this event and for all the work they do all year, and especially in June, for us in Toronto and for the queer community. Also at this time, it's my honor to introduce Erin Edgehill, who is a Pride Toronto board member, to say a few words on behalf of Pride. Welcome, Erin.
Thank you all for having me here. As she just said, my name is Erin Edgehill, and I would like to welcome you all on behalf of the Pride Toronto Board of Directors. As a person who identifies as non-binary, I recognize the importance of these events because they not only create a safe space and visibility for those of us who identify as non-binary, but they also continue to push for an open dialogue surrounding the ways in which our genders are invalidated in our everyday lives. I think we can clap for that too. I would just like to take a brief moment to thank TIFF, as well as Pride Toronto and everyone who made this event possible and are making it happen to create this little nook of space for folks who identify as non-binary, and then as well to our panelists who will share their stories once again today, and in doing so will create a more intersectional and inclusive Pride. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Okay, I'm also really excited to introduce the host of today's conversation. So Dasla Dina is a digital media strategist, a community event organizer, and a TIFF Next Wave committee alum. Holler. She cares deeply about movie musicals and film programming centered around African diaspora and LGBTQ+ experiences. Dasla is studying communications and is working towards becoming a publicist with a goal to foster inclusive, accessible film spaces. She was also hugely helpful in brainstorming folks to take the stage today, so I feel doubly honored and excited to have Dasla leading our conversation. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Dasla Dina.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Happy Pride. I'm so excited to be on the stage, to be inviting everyone to this event, to have these amazing creators here, and to just be opening up this conversation. So I'll get right down to it. I'll introduce our panelists for tonight. So first up, we have Ariel Scott, professionally known as Ari Fitz. She's an American social media and TV personality, model, producer, and filmmaker. Her short documentary, My Mama Wears Timbs, won the Diversity Award at Toronto's Buffer Festival in 2017. Currently, she's completing a webcomic called Wedge and is running an Instagram-only indie magazine called Tomboyish. She was part of the Tribeca Film Festival's new online work showcase in April 2018 and will be publishing a fashion-focused memoir in 2018. So please join me in welcoming Ari Fitz. Yeah. Next up, we have Aisha Delino Gariba, who is a filmmaker, photographer, illustrator, graphic designer, and entrepreneur from Ghana and Lesotho. Their primary mediums include digital art, film photography, and digital filmmaking, through which they explore issues of identity, specifically societal expectations of race, gender, and sexuality. They are currently studying social sciences at the University of Toronto with a focus on women and gender studies. So please join me in welcoming Aisha. Next up, we have Dinali Joyce Tran, who is a filmmaker and activist from Toronto, identifying as a queer, non-binary, ace person of color. They aim to explore the intersections of these identities through film. They have participated in several film programs for queer youth, such as New Visions and Fluidity on Film. They are currently a Youth Advisory Council member for Planned Parenthood Toronto LGBTQ Youth Initiative. Please join me in welcoming Dinali. Whoa! I love the energy. And next we have Luis De Filippis, who is a Toronto-based trans femme filmmaker whose work celebrates otherness and employs a fierce female gaze. Their work has played internationally at festivals such as TIFF, Rotterdam, and BFI Flair. Their most recent work, For Nona Anna, in 2017, won the Best Short Narrative Award at the Atlanta International Film Festival and the Special Jury Prize at Sundance. Please join me in welcoming Luis.
Testing. Oh, sure.
All right.
Are they live? Ooh, it's live. Okay.
Well, first of all, welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for the introductions. Those are great.
Yeah, of course. So it'd be great if all of us could just go ahead and self-identify and pronouns, that kind of thing. That'd be awesome.
So, as Dasila said, my name is Aisha Deneo Gariba. I use they, them pronouns.
My name is Ari Fitz. I go by she, her, daddy.
Dinali Joyce Tran. My pronouns are they and them.
Luis, identify as trans femme, gender fluid, and I like they, she, even him sometimes, depending on how you say it.
Awesome. I realized I forgot to self-identify. My name is Dasila. My pronouns are she and her and they, them. Awesome. So let's just dive right into it. So we're all filmmakers here, right? So we're going to talk a bit about your inspirations and, your journeys individually in your filmmaking work. But it'd be awesome if we could just start by, talking about why filmmaking and what motivates you and inspires you and just why you love the work that you do.
I guess I'll start just because I'm closest to you. But I think for me personally, I chose to become a filmmaker among many other things that I do because I would go on trips with my parents when my dad was working and when I was off school. And I was the one who was in charge of the camera and taking pictures and documenting the trips. And so I would take pictures, and then one day when we got a new camera, I flipped the camera to live mode. And if you've heard me speak about film before, you've probably heard the story, so I apologize. But I flipped the camera to live mode, and it was automatically way more exciting. And for me, well, not to say the photography isn't exciting, because I like that too, but film was just a new and interesting way to be able to tell a story. And I started with travel videos, and then I would find cool songs to put them to and post them on YouTube, and then just get flagged for copyright. So I had to start figuring out other things to do. And so I dove into documentary filmmaking because I really, really wanted to be able to tell real people's stories. And I always found that documentaries were super interesting no matter what. Like, I spent some of my time on YouTube watching bad documentaries, and even the bad ones are really good and really fascinating. So
I mean, you learn a lot, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like the German guy who was a cannibal. Anyways, talk to me about that later if you want to know about that. But I love documentaries because they're interesting no matter what. And then I started making music videos, and then I thought, you know what, this is really cool and awesome and fun. And so I stuck with film, and I am here now, pretty much.
Awesome.
So my whole story is like all over the place, but originally I got on YouTube because I wanted to always become a filmmaker, and it just always felt like the tools were so far away. I've always been like really, really interested in like science fiction and horror and thrillers and places where you don't see bodies like mine or narratives like mine. And I knew that I wanted to be like the sole voice there, the person that like kind of like pushed forward to see, you know, queer bodies or trans bodies, et cetera, in science fiction. And I just didn't have the budget. I just didn't have the money. So I was like, I guess I'm a YouTuber then. I guess that's where I'm going to go first. And so I started making YouTube videos for a while. And it took me a while to remember why I got involved in the first place. And last year, I made my like first short documentary that you all will see today. But that was the first time I remembered why I started making things in the first place. And it was to really push forward stories that you normally don't see, specifically for bodies like my own. I've always been like really, really interested in anime. I'm a huge nerd. Always been super interested in horror. I just always wanted to be the girl that could actually like tell those stories as well. And so now I'm just slowly making my way in telling those kinds of stories, but doing it while maintaining a lot of my agency. I think, you know, with things like Me Too and just like a lot of different just weird things that happen in Hollywood. By the way, I'm from LA. Like I'm the only person that's here from LA. I don't live in Toronto, unfortunately. It's gorgeous. But I think what happens in Hollywood is that like a lot of people feel like they have to compromise themselves and their bodies when they enter these spaces and when they have these meetings, and I just never really wanted to do that. And so it's in becoming a filmmaker and pushing forward kind of the stories that I want to tell, I knew that I had to do it on my own. And so platforms like YouTube, platforms like, you know, like a cheap little WordPress thing or like Squarespace where I can create my own webcomic, these are all things that I'm looking to do to like make my way into filmmaking in a way that I don't lose myself. So I guess to bring it all together, I'm interested in filmmaking because I want to be able to tell like my 13-year-old self that she's valid and that she can be a huge nerd and that her story within, you know, traditional media doesn't have to be a sob story just because she's Black and queer. And she doesn't have to compromise herself in these spaces. She's very, very much capable of telling incredibly powerful stories within science fiction, horror, et cetera, and doing it in a way that she can maintain her agency. So, yeah.
I love it.
So, like, when are we all going to make a sci-fi thing? Yeah. Okay. Anyways.
Yo, I'm over here recruiting. I was just waiting for everybody to hop on. So
if you ever move to Toronto, we're all here. Yeah, so I guess my start, I don't know, I've always been in love with like film and art and things like that, but I never thought I could like personally do it until I did the New Visions program, which is like the Inside Out LGBT Film Festival. They like relaunched their like no experience filmmakers if you're under 25 or over 55, I think it was, right? So they did that, and that came back 2 years ago after taking a break, and you'll see that film that I did later, and it's about like what it's like living at home with or without your parents, and whether or not your parents are from a different culture than the place that you live in. So I wanted to explore that because I hadn't seen that before, and the fact that I made this 2 years ago and yet it's still like impacting people. Oh, I'm gonna cry! I haven't even started yet.
You got this.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I guess like that's my start. Is just like making sure that there are programs out there for queer youth of color, like all identities and things like that, and making sure you like do that outreach so you get those voices heard and give them the opportunity to make things. And like this is so surreal. Ooh, okay.
Yeah. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, I guess I started in the arts when I was like young. I started with ballet. I was a ballet dancer, and I trained with the National Ballet for like a while and like got really serious into it. And I thought that would be, now like when I reflect on it, I think at the time I thought it would be a way for me to express myself, but what it actually did was just make things worse in terms of gender, because ballet is like a very gendered practice. Like girls do one thing, guys do something else.
As
and
with many things in our
and
society.
there's nothing in the middle. So I stopped that. I switched over to drama, and then I went to an arts high school. And in grade 11, they had a director come in and they did like a crash course on film. And that's where I fell in love with film. And I went to Ryerson, and I studied there for 4 years. And then I got out of school and I made some films with some friends. And they, like, I look back on them and they're good, but I couldn't see myself in them because I was hiding something, I suppose. And I took like a little bit of time to figure out like who I was and the stories I wanted to tell and the stories I wanted to see. There was a lack of stories being told that I wanted to see. So I decided to start telling those stories because that's the best thing to do, tell the stories you want to see. And I think we all do that in one way or another.
100%.
I have a very off-topic question. This is not appropriate at all. So do Canadians say grade 11? Because we say like junior, sophomore, like senior and stuff like that.
Definitely
Like, is that a
American
thing?
Yeah,
thing. Like
it's a thing.
freshmen, like
Yeah.
those are very, I feel like they're very American.
I was just wondering. Okay, cool. Grade 11. Got it.
We're very literal. We're very literal.
No, it's
Like
I
people say
appreciate that. It
like
makes more sense.
Niners and like instead of freshmen, I think, right?
Yeah.
Is that still a thing?
That was
Anyway.
the thing.
Okay.
Everyone says Niners. Well, anyway, okay. So you're all speaking on kind of, you know, your individual journeys and getting to a point where you didn't necessarily think that you had the resources, the capabilities, or just finding yourself and eventually getting to that point of making films. And all of us have inspirations, and I think we have some content of you all, you know, speaking on your inspirations. So I think we'll jump right into those inspiration content. Roll the clip. I've always wanted to say that. Say it louder. Great film.
That was my inspiration.
Awesome. Do
Amazing.
you want to speak more on why?
Yeah, I remember seeing that film, when did it come out? Like maybe 2012-ish. And I really loved it. It was the first time. I mean, there's things about it that I love, and there's things about it I don't love. I'll talk about what I don't love first. So what I don't love about it is I don't know if everyone's seen it. I don't want to give away too much of the ending. But in the end, Miguel kind of goes back to using their female name, and I'm not so into that. I'm not into that kind of message that the film is showing. But what the film did really well was that it showed the relationship between Miguel and their sister so beautifully.
Agreed.
Like, I love that there was no conversation between them. Like, it's just these two kids, and she just gets it. The sister's just like, okay, you're my brother. Like, how she finds out about it is someone comes to the door and they're like, is Miguel home? And she's like, no, he's not home. And then she just closes the door and she like thinks about it for a second and she's like, your friend came home, or like your friend was here. And like, that was beautiful. The fact that it was just like, there was no conversation about it. They just intrinsically understood each other.
It's not a burden, kind of. It's just it's the way it is. 'Cause
Exactly.
Family is a big part of a lot of people's journey.
Exactly.
Right?
And so I just, that relationship really inspired me. Yeah.
I was gonna, because I was like, there's so much. That film is just so powerful. How did you feel when he like started playing with his shirt off? Because that was like such a thing to play without his shirt. Like, how did you feel about that?
I felt like he was really happy about it. Like, he felt so powerful. Yeah. Like, he was at first very hesitant about it. And
Sorry, guys, if you haven't seen the film. I'm sorry. It's just like I haven't talked about this ever, and it's, yeah.
Get the Blu-ray and or DVD. You can do that. Yeah, I think it's a moment where he's just like, I got this. Like, I can run around without my shirt on and no one is going to say anything. And there's this great, like, he wears like just the bottom of a swimsuit at one point, and he's like so comfortable, and it's a great film. And it's just like kids being kids, which is just wonderful. And like no one hasn't, like, at least the sister doesn't have an issue with it. That's the best part.
What struck out to me most in that trailer was the music. I'm really big on, as I mentioned, I love movie musicals, so any kind of soundtracks. Do any of you have kind of like a queer anthem for you growing up, or just any song?
Any Tegan and Sarah, like
No?
anything by
Yeah?
Tegan and Sarah. I had to rush to put the microphone to my face before you finished saying that so I could rep Tegan and Sarah so hard.
I love it.
I love them so much, and I got to meet Tegan when I was volunteering, I know all the queer folks are just like, oh my goodness. But yeah, Tegan and Sarah, 150 million%. I'll think about more later, but for right now, that's my priority. I just had to slip that in there.
Lots of summer jams from them. No, seriously.
Summer, winter, fall, any time
All
of your
year
life.
round, all of it.
Childhood, adolescence, elderly. Like, it's just great. They're awesome.
I love the energy.
Talk to me about it.
Tegan and Sarah fan number 1 right here.
I'm gonna go ahead and say Donna Summer. She's big in our house. We got her greatest hits. We got so good. She's amazing.
Yo,
There's a
I
big
don't
music taste.
think I have a queer
Any?
I feel like should I leave now? Like I don't
No,
know if
what
I
do you
have
mean?
one. I'm like for some reason I like nothing's coming to mind. Like I'm
Yeah.
just thinking of like weird like
Any,
trap
like, just
stuff.
or just your anthem, really, like any, because it's
You
your
know
identity,
what?
right?
You know what? You know what? I Want You by Marvin Gaye. Like, yo, if you've never heard this song, here's what you need to do. You need to take a shower, cover yourself in coconut oil. This is a prerequisite to listening to this song for the first time. Cover yourself in coconut oil, stare at yourself in the mirror, and then play this song once. No one can tell you anything after that. I Want You by Marvin Gaye. You'll just be in there like feeling like Jimmy Jr. and Bob's Burgers, like just rubbing yourself down. It's a beautiful song. It's a gorgeous song.
Ari tips, life tips right here.
God. What up, Bob's Burgers? Yeah. I guess my go-to like karaoke song / queer anthem is like Queen, Somebody to Love. Like
Gotta love Queen.
you just like embody like Freddie, and you're just fine.
There's a new film coming out about Freddie.
Yeah. Well,
Remy
they
Malek.
took out
Okay, anyway.
Yeah.
Moving along.
all the queerness.
That tends to happen.
Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna go on to the next inspiration. I think we have it up on screen.
This is also mine.
Oh, awesome.
This came out, I think I first found this like 2014, and it's Zachary Drucker and her then boyfriend Reese Ernst, and they're a trans couple, and they took pictures of themselves as they were transitioning, and it was again one of the first times I saw trans people take the camera and document themselves in a way that wasn't. They weren't vilified. They weren't vilified. They weren't eroticized. They weren't sensationalized. They were just being people. So yeah, these are some of the pictures, and it just shows. They're so honest and open in the pictures, and also just there's subtle moments in their lives. Like they're not like huge. Like they're not because a lot of the time in the media, like a trans story will center on like, are you gonna do the hormone thing? And like we have a lot more decisions to make other than that. And I just really like this picture and the pictures that follow. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Hello.
Shout
Hello,
out to the
clicker.
stage manager.
Which one is it? Where am I pointing?
Thank you.
This is a Black Mirror episode.
It really is a Black Mirror episode. What you don't know is what's about to happen next.
Neither do we, though.
Facts.
But I mean, I like what you said about the the portrayal, like people showing their own stories. I think because especially in film, I mean, not necessarily photography, all mediums, but especially in film, people aren't given the opportunity to play their own experiences, right? Like trans actors playing trans characters. It's important.
So, yeah, these are just more photos of their work. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Yay.
I got the
Clickers are great.
power.
Yeah, there's something super dope about like seeing how art changes when the subject has control over their own narrative versus like always being a subject.
So yeah, that's Zachary and Reese. Thanks, guys. Juliana Huxtable was like another person I stumbled upon when I was very early on in like figuring out my gender, and she just has so much power as like a person and a being. And this is not her work, but she worked with an artist, Frank Benson, and it was for the Triennial in New York. And basically the idea was to have her pose as like a Grecian goddess and a Roman goddess. But the only difference was she wasn't looking away, because in a lot of those older or ancient statues, they're always looking away because they're ashamed of their bodies, or they need to be like promiscuous. And she's staring directly at, not in this photo, but in some of the photos, she's staring directly at the viewer, and she's kind of confronting them. And what I also really loved about this artist and how he worked with her was like he gave her agency of the pose that she was going to do, and he gave her agency of the texture of the actual statue. And that's the way you work with trans and gender non-conforming subjects. If you're not gender non-conforming or trans and you want to make work about them, you work with them. You don't consult them after the fact and you're like, are you okay with this? Because most likely we're not going to be okay, and it's not okay to do that. You work with us right from the beginning. So yeah, I really liked this one. And this is her own work. And again, she based it on classical sculpture. And she was playing with the idea of like femininity and confronting those kind of ideas. I love it. Like I can look at it and just be like, wow.
Where does your eye go first?
The braids, I think. It's just those yellow braids.
The color, yeah, it stands out.
I mean, maybe it's like a little avatar. I don't know. It's great. I love it. So
amazing. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think we have some more inspirations. Anyone else?
I was just going to talk.
Yeah, go for it.
Because I like hearing my own voice, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, so, is anyone else showing anything?
We'll play it right here with you.
I'll just start and then we can figure it out from there.
Awesome.
So my
I've been summoned.
yeah, it's your time. It's your time.
Well, so initially I had these as a part of just what my work was, but we shifted it to the inspirations part, so I could kind of talk around it. Sorry, I'll just use this now. Oh, there we go. So yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. This is like exploring gender through photography before I actually thought of myself as a subject in photographs, because I never really thought of taking pictures of myself, because I didn't really like pictures of myself that much, to be quite honest. So I took these pictures in 2017 of my brother and his best friend, and he directed the shoot, but he pretty much put the camera in my hands, and he was like, you need to, he styled it and everything, he came up with the idea, but he was like, you need to direct and you need to tell me what to do, because I'm your subject in this whole project, and you're the photographer. And he's given me a lot of opportunities to do that and explore how I work as an artist, who I am as an artist, and who I am as a person. So I guess as like kind of an ode to my siblings and my family, who are a huge inspiration to me, this is some of the stuff that I chose just to show my work, because not only does it explore themes of gender, it's just exploring specifically the things that brought me to the place that I am now as an artist, pretty much. So, I mean, my brother's a massive inspiration, but also like kind of myself in a little way, and a little like, but yeah, so there's these pictures that I took, and then I put myself in front of the camera. Oh no, not yet. But yes, I took these pictures, and then I put myself in front of the camera very recently, and I used fabrics as backdrops, fabrics that I got from Ghana, and obviously my upbringing was a really huge piece when I'm talking about inspiration, because I grew up in Ghana. I lived there for 14 years, and I moved to Canada 5 years ago. So you can do the math on that. Never mind. I'm 19, so I won't force you to do math. But yeah, so I think there's a lot that goes into this. I'm not super articulate right now because I'm really nervous.
Okay, first off, you're killing it. You're great.
You're all doing
you're
great.
doing it perfectly.
Semi-naked photos of me up in an auditorium at TIFF. So yeah, basically my upbringing and my background as a Ghanaian and as a Mosoto person, so someone from Lesotho, singular, Mosoto, plural is Basoto, by the way, and the country's Lesotho. Quick crash course. But yeah, I use the fabrics as backdrops just because I just kind of wanted to show how big of a deal it was for me to be West African and to be Ghanaian and to be a person who is not necessarily fitting within the gender binary in some way. And so that was a huge inspiration to me, but also I think it was really important for me to put myself in front of the camera. And when thinking specifically about gender, because I do work surrounding identity with other people in front of the camera and kind of try to orchestrate cohesion on the other end. And so to put myself in the forefront was really scary for me. And then I took the pictures and I was like, I really like the way these look. And I really am starting to like the way that I look. And again, it was really important to have things that were pretty explicitly Ghanaian in the back, because it was like growing up in Ghana was a little bit weird for my gender, the exploration of my gender growing up, which I'll talk about later probably, but I just don't know if there's anything else on here. But no, there's promo. This was supposed to go at the end, but just take this. I'll just leave this up.
You got to be your own number one.
But yeah, that's the photos. But in terms of other inspiration, honestly, I used to watch a lot of like old TV and movies growing up. So like, I watched Tootsie. Tootsie's like my favorite movie. It was made in 1982. Dustin Hoffman, Jessica Lange, Bill Murray. You should check it out. And it was the first film that I ever saw anyone dressing in drag. And I'm not going to give too much away, but Michael Dorsey is a struggling actor, and he figures that the best way to get a job is to dress up and create a persona, Dorothy Michaels. And so Dorothy Michaels is now the like it girl, and she's killing it. And obviously there's a lot of things that are super not cool about the movie in small ways where you watch and you're like, is this good? And the answer is no. But in a lot of ways, it was really huge for me, because I thought, oh my gosh, as like a 5-year-old, I was like, this boy is dressing like a lady and is successful. This is great. And then I was like, maybe this lady can dress like a boy, and and people will you know what I mean? It was just like kind of fun for me to kind of explore that.
It's those small things when you're like really young.
Yeah,
at
exactly.
any age, really, I think.
Yeah, and I'm not, and this is a kind of like winding way to get through my inspirations, but yeah, little things like that were kind of really special to me as a little kid, and like Three's Company and the Jeffersons. And these aren't things that are explicitly queer, but they're still pretty important to me, so I figured I'd mention them.
Love it. Ari, you want to talk about your inspirations?
Yeah. Okay. So, hi everyone. My name's Ari Fitz. I tell stories about gender and identity specifically through fashion and beauty. And basically, I wanted to share a story. I've done a video about this, so if anyone's ever seen my videos before, I apologize if this sounds redundant. But I'm also, if you watch my videos, you know I'm a redundant ass bitch. So that's the thing. Raise your hand, friends, if it takes you 10 minutes or less to get dressed in the morning. All right.
This is a powerful story.
Raise your hands if it's 10 to 30 minutes. Okay. Raise your hands if it's 30 minutes plus.
Okay, but like I plan them the night before.
Yeah, I mean, I do the same. So my work, I started doing a lot of work around clothing and how clothing can be so charged, because it hit me in so many different ways and so many different times how the way that you're dressed can affect a lot of different things. It can affect the way that people perceive you, obviously. It can affect the way that you feel about yourself and whether or not you're going to get that job, whether or not you're going to get that date. It can affect, the way that you interact with your family, and it can also interact the way that people can do violence to your body. And I talk a lot about clothing, and everyone's just like, oh, it's like, it's so floaty. It's just clothing. And I'm like, nah, man, like, let me explain how this shit can be like really, really serious. And so I wanted to just share a story, because I've talked about it a lot on YouTube, but it's been a while since I've shared this. So once upon a time, I was a baby queer. Been in the game for a while, so that's not now. But when I was first coming out, I grew up in Oakland, and in Oakland, we're pretty progressive. Like, I went to Cal, I went to UC Berkeley, and it's a very progressive place. But even so, when I was coming into my like queer identity, there was still very much a binary. Like, if you dressed a certain way, you attracted a certain kind of person. My friends told me if I wanted to attract a very feminine presenting woman, then I had to dress very masculine, and vice versa. And so I knew very early on that I was pretty much in the middle, you know, like I knew that I wasn't I just knew I wasn't on either side. I knew that like there was a range and I just couldn't figure out where exactly I lived on that range. And so on this particular day, first off, my style was trash for a very long time. But on this day, I was wearing like a baggier shirt and these like booty shorts because I was filling my legs that summer and some loafers. And my friend said that she was going to pick me up from the train station so we can go to this day party. And I was super excited. And it was like my like second queer outing. So I was just like, oh, hopefully the girls will like me. Yeah. And she told me she was running late and that she should, for just to hang out, and she'll be there in like 5 or 6 minutes or so. And I was like, bet, I'm going to go across the street to this liquor store and I'm going to get me some beef jerky because I'm hungry. And just meet me on the corner of the liquor store. So as I was approaching the liquor store, this all too familiar wave of anxiety and nervousness and panic and fear washed all over me because there was a group of men standing in front of, like, right in front of the door of the liquor store. So it's like I had to engage in order to get inside. And I, you know, before that, I had always presented very feminine, and so it was a little easier to hide my androgyny, but at the time I was playing so much with my presentation and my identity that, you know, I looked like I do now. I looked like very much in the middle. And so as I was approaching this group of dudes, I was like, what's gonna happen? Are they gonna say anything? Am I gonna have an issue? Like, what's gonna happen? And so I walk up, and then guy number one tries to like get my number or whatever, and then I try not to make any eye contact. I try to just keep it real, you know, like just please don't bother me. I won't bother you. Like it's gonna be fine. And he tries to get my number, and right as I'm walking past the group, his friend whispers to him, but audible enough for me to hear, "Yo, I think that's a dude." And so I walk inside and I'm like looking for my beef jerky and I'm like, oh man, like this is, I just wanted to go to the day party and meet these girls. Like hopefully this is gonna be okay. So I collect my beef jerky, I walk out, I pass the guys again. And of course, guy number one is now in all of his feelings and really needs to protect his ego. And he just starts like he's visibly angry at me, the person that said literally nothing to him. And he's just like, oh, so you're a dude, like blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, nah, man, no, just, it's all good. And I walk by and I stand on the corner, and I'm standing in the corner waiting for my friend, and I'm trying to like just fight back tears like I'm doing right now and eat my beef jerky. And then there's like an object that just goes past me. And I don't know what it was. I think I always told myself it was an apple, but I was like, I don't think he was about his health like that, so I don't think it was an apple. Like, I don't know if it was like, I don't know what the object was, but it looked sharp and it looked like it was meant to hit me. And so I'm standing there and I'm like, oh shit, now I'm getting attacked. He starts screaming faggot and all this shit, and I'm standing on the corner and I'm just like, I really like my legs today. Like, I just wanted to wear this fit. And my friend finally shows up, and dude, to this day, I'm still mad at her because she always drives her car, but for some reason, that one day, she shows up in her little, what are those called? Moped. Fucking moped. Why were you driving the moped today of all days? So she pulls up, and this is like one of my like flighty, airy, like she probably, apologies to anyone if this is like offensive, but she was just she was talking about crystals in her text and stuff. And so she's just like not even thinking about anything, like playing music, like, hi friend. And I'm sitting there like freaking the fuck out. And she hands me a helmet. I'm like, yo, can we just go? We gotta go. I just need to get out of here. I just gotta get out of here. And she's just like, what's going on? And then as she pulls up, the guy who's throwing stuff at me stands in front of the moped, walks up to us, stands in front of the moped, and then just starts talking to her like, yo, is this a dude? Is this a dude? Apparently, masculinity is real fragile, y'all. Because like, why do you have to talk to my friend about it to confirm you weren't gonna have me anyway? Like, so what? Like, why are you so? Anyways, that's another day. So she's engaging because she's just a really sweet, polite girl. And she's like, what? No, I'm so confused. Like, is the music loud? Like, she's like really trying to have a conversation with him. And I'm like, can we leave, please? We gotta go. And finally she gets the message and we drive off. And I tell that entire story. I pull up those memories just to say that like clothing is important. Clothing is charged. And I do my work because of that. Because it's not just like, you know, it's not like, oh, I just want to wear silk. I just want to wear taffeta. It's like, if I choose to wear this thing, I could die tonight, you know? And so that's my inspiration. That's why I do what I do. That's it.
Thank you for sharing that story with us. No, really. I think, I mean, obviously we're here to, you know, celebrate, you know, identity and stuff, but it's obvious that it's not always a celebration. Sometimes it's very real, and it takes a journey to get to those points, and, you know, it gets very intense and emotional. So
I do want to follow up on that.
yes.
That's also another reason why when I make the stuff that I do, I tell stories like that very rarely. Like, I wanted to share that today because I was like, I don't know if I have much for inspiration. I started thinking, I took a shower this morning, and I was like, oh, I think I have to do that. That's a real side of just existing in these bodies. It's just a real side of it. But there's also a really beautiful, wonderful community. There's so much fun and lightness. And I think I work now to just try my best to tell the light stories as much as possible, because there are so many tragic narratives around brown bodies, queer bodies, trans bodies, etc. And I feel like sometimes we just need to just show off the fact that we're having a good fucking time too. Like, I have the time, and also I enjoy getting dressed all the time now, and I think that that's really important. So the piece that I'm showing today is very much like a lighthearted piece. It's very much like celebratory of it. I mean, it blends in some of the real shit, because it's like you can't ignore that. But I think it is important to talk about like light stuff as well.
100%. All right, so I think we'll move into
This is mine.
Oh, yeah, of course. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. Yeah, I guess just like to add on to what Ari said, yeah, my doc is like about serious topics like the whatever, like queer diaspora, but I feel like it ends on like a hopeful note, and I do want to do that because my inspirations are kind of a downer as well. But not this one. This is Casey Masiha. She's like a musician / academic at U of T, and like was in the band Obiju and is no longer in that band, and I got introduced to her through my sister, who's over there. Hi. Yeah. And like I remember like seeing Casey perform a song, and Vivek Shraya was also there. They were doing something at U of T, and it was a stripped down version of one of her songs called Balak Bayan. Oh, don't cry again. Okay. It's like about so it's this box that people send like back home, and it's like full of things and everything. I can't. Yeah, hold on.
No, take a moment. No.
I told everyone that I was gonna cry, and they were like, "Yeah, probably." And here I am crying. Great. But yeah,
I was crying the entire time.
Yeah. Okay. All right. But no, yeah. So it's like sort of about that, and she's Filipino, and like it's great to see representation like that because my mom's Filipino. So yeah, just those things, and like I'm going back to or not back because I've never been, but I'm going for a whole month this summer just with my mom. So like there's a whole ton of emotions there, but I'm excited and scared, but you know, it's gonna be great. I think
it'll be a new journey for you. More self-exploration.
Plenty of like inspiration and stuff to draw from. And this doc called Harganda, I saw this at the Inside Out Film Festival where it won like Choice Audience Doc, I think. And it was also at Hot Docs earlier this year. But yeah, it's about a Filipino trans woman who was like brutally murdered by an American soldier. And like, it's just those, like I was crying throughout the whole thing. But yeah, those stories is just like, we know that this happens. And the director of this film, PJ Raval, he's like a gay Filipino. And some people had asked him if it was his like story to tell because it's like based in the Philippines, but he's based in America. But because of the like crossover of American and like Filipino tension, it was kind of like his unique perspective on that, which is what I really liked about it, even though, you know, like it's a tragic story and it happens every day. And then our last one is, I saw this last year at Real Asian. It's it's a doc that Thibault made, and I think he's gay. He didn't like explicitly say it, and it wasn't really in the doc, which I kind of would have liked if it was.
Explicit messages are important.
Right?
When do people feel comfortable?
Because so he goes like back to Vietnam to find out about his family and his dad, and he like lost contact with his dad because he had to move over to, I think it's Calgary or Alberta, somewhere in North America, with his mom. So he never got to reconnect with his dad. And it just, like, I cried throughout the whole thing again. Just so much crying. Because it just, like,
You guys
stories.
are dope.
I know.
Like, it's such a powerful...
I didn't used to cry as a kid because, I think it's because I didn't, like, make connections like these, but now I can. And I cry all the time. But no, so my dad's Vietnamese, and it's just, like, seeing people, like, talk like him in a film. It was super cool. And, now I'm crying again, and I think I'm done. But, just, like, those cross connections about identity and, like, race and culture and all of that. I'm just going to cry throughout this whole thing, Bridget. It's okay. This is what you signed up for. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much. Can I just say how awesome everyone on this panel is? Literally, all of our varied energies, everything. All right, so I think we're gonna move into the clips. Yes.
Thank
okay,
God.
cool. we're gonna go.
I'm gonna wipe away my tears.
Enjoy everyone.
How y'all doing? You guys good?
Can we just get another round of applause for these amazing filmmakers and their work? I mean, I just want to say thank you. I mean, for telling your stories and telling the stories of your communities and the stories that you want to see represented, because it's very powerful and it means a lot. And representation is very important. So, I mean, we're gonna open up to audience questions in a bit, but I just want to ask, kind of like, in the LGBTQ plus community, like all experiences, there's so many areas that they're perhaps valued more than others, certain body types, certain abilities, race, class, those kinds of things. So if any of you want to speak on maybe why it's important to you to, make sure that the stories you tell are, representative of those underrepresented groups or people who don't necessarily get to portray their experiences on screen.
I mean, I guess I'll start. But I think it's really important just because otherwise I feel like you think that it's kind of impossible to be yourself. I know for me personally, and this is maybe I'll get emotional, who knows if my voice cracks. So, well, no, actually I'm not going to apologize. But
Don't apologize.
Yeah, I think for me for a while, I had a very weird journey of discovering who I am, and I think it's good. That's going to continue for sure because I don't think I will ever really reach a final form. But yeah, I think for a long time, so first of all, I was like, okay, I'm Black, I'm Ghanaian, I'm Mosoto, I'm a couple of different things, right? And I knew that I could be those things because I was, and people told me, and I could tell, and I could see it, and I'm like, okay, cool. Couple of things established, there we go, identity-wise. And I remember, like, my eldest brother, but he's not the oldest, he's the second born. He came out when I was about 5 years old, and I distinctly remember this conversation because we were walking down the street, and, like, there were clusters. There's 6 of us in our family, and there were clusters of people, and we were in Ottawa, and we were walking down, like in Greenboro, and having this conversation, and I was like, what is going on? Like, why are we what's the tension? It's so tight as a 5-year-old. And my sister was like, oh, so my older brother, and she was like, oh, yeah, our older brother, well, not our, because she's older, anyways, he just came out. And I was like, as what? What happened? As gay. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, sick. And I was like, just like kept on pushing, kept walking, and just knowing that for me, I was like, I knew that boys could be gay. I didn't know that girls could be gay at all. And I could see, like I saw on TV, I was like, okay, there are gay men, but it wasn't even a possibility in my mind that anyone else could be anything queer. And then I had a crush on a girl, and then it was over. And then yeah, I was like, okay, maybe it's possible. And then even up until a couple of months ago, honestly, I felt like when it came to my gender identity, I knew that queerness was something for me sexuality-wise, but gender-wise, it took me a really long time to figure stuff out. My mom like shaved my head because I wasn't taking care of my hair and I didn't want to get braids.
Relatable. I'm gonna cut my hair soon.
Yeah, it's awesome. But anyway, she shaved I was 8 years old, and I was like, yeah, do it. And I dared her. She took me to the barbershop, shaved my head, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll just switch everything up. And then I started dressing really butch. And I was still bothered when people would call me a young man, but I was like still more okay with it because I was treated better. And I lived in a. It's true. If a plumber comes to your house and starts calling you chief and buddy and champ, you know they think you're a boy. And I'm like, I'll take it. If you talk to me like a person, but I had like a weird journey between the ages of 8 and then kind of now, where I just kind of drifted towards being a little bit more femme, and realized I was just doing it so that middle school boys would like me, and then I was like, I don't like you, and then I stopped doing that, and then I drifted back, and I was like, okay, I'm butch now. I'm gonna stop painting my nails. I'm gonna just keep my nails short. I'm gonna dress this way. I like this stuff. No makeup. Fuck that. Oh, should I be swearing?
I've been doing it all day. And
Okay,
I forgot.
I don't
where
know.
was.
Like anyway, so I was like, F that. And then I was like, wait, I don't have to be this way either. And then I realized that I had like a really difficult conversation with someone. Not difficult, but for me it was tough because I couldn't articulate the fact that I was afraid to be too many things. I was afraid to be Black and queer and African and an immigrant and also possibly non-binary. But she told me, she was like, honestly, do you, like, and she's here right now, but I won't point to her right now. But yeah, it's just like, do you, honestly, and if there's something that makes you feel more comfortable, do that. And I started doing that. And then I went on a month-long trip back home to Ghana, and I was like, okay, I'm going back to she, her pronouns, and we're not going to talk about this. I'm not out to my parents as someone who uses they, them pronouns. I'm not out to a lot of people, but yeah, it's been really tough. And I think representation, going back to the original question, is really important, because if there was a lot of representation when I was even younger, I wouldn't have had a weird period of like coming to terms with being too many things and being afraid to be too many things, and kind of just would have been more chill about just being myself. And I've honestly never loved myself more than like right now. It feels great. It feels awesome. Like I started dressing the way that I wanted to dress, and like started shaving my hair more consistently and just keeping it tight. And I ordered a binder online, a chest binder, and I'm wearing it right now. It feels amazing, and I got a tattoo, and I just feel good, you know?
Living your best life.
Exactly, yeah, living my absolute best. I'm on stage at TIFF. I'm fucking it up. I'll swear now. But no, honestly, it's been really, really nice to kind of try and shed that fear a little bit and not let it take over me. Allow it to just be there and kind of live in the corner on a timeout sometimes, because I can't let that drive me. And I think it's really important to be able to tell these stories and even talk about my experience with gender without explicitly saying what I am, because I don't know. Like, I have no clue. People have asked me a lot of questions, and I just don't know. I just know that I'd like to be referred to with neutral pronouns, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I feel like that's kind of where I'm at in my journey.
And you can be that representation that, you know, so many people out there need. No, seriously, it's true.
I hope that, I don't know. I feel like people can't really look up to me because I'm 5'1". Like, literally look up to... I had to throw a joke in there because I cried just now, so I had to just... we're back. All right. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Thank you, Aisha.
There's something so dope in those 3 words, I don't know. Because it's just like, what can you say now? Like, I don't know. Like, I think that it's so disarming, and it's so, like... I don't know. I think there's a lot of power. I don't know. I think there's a lot of power in that, like, in just being like...
Vulnerability?
Dude, I don't know. I have no... Like, do you have other questions? Because that's the answer. And I think that's so, 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 so dope. So I'm glad that that's where you are. Mm-hmm. Okay.
No.
Whew. So I guess when it comes to telling narratives, it took me so long to get comfortable in myself, Like like even though I think that the I don't know phase is so cool, because once you say I don't know, you then allow yourself to kind of like explore everything. I feel like I've explored everything, explored a lot. And I think I finally kind of like, I'm starting to feel really, really like solid in the identity that I've crafted for myself. And everything that I do now is just to widen that gap for my 13-year-old self. Like, if I can help sis get there faster, then my work is done. Like, if I can let her know that, you know, she has more than enough power to take over a room. She has more than enough power to ask for what she wants, demand how much her rates are. Like, you know, if I can like really, really like just instill a lot of confidence and just comfort in my 13-year-old self, then my work is done. And my 13-year-old self is really, it's a metaphor that I use for just like people who are coming up today who have like a lot of battles with identity and with gender and with sexuality and with, you know, just being othered and being different. And I think it's really cool now that, I mean, that the short that you all saw that was meant for YouTube. I've been making YouTube videos for like 4 or 5 years. I'm dating myself right now. I've been on YouTube for a while, and I think it's really cool now that people are referencing the way that I dress and referencing the stories that I've told, and they're saying like, hey, you helped me get there faster. And I'm like, dope, that's why I did it. I want to reduce that gap, because there's just so much, there's a lot that can happen. There's a lot of really, really negative things that can happen to a person who doesn't feel like they belong. Like, once you put that in your mind, anyone can come in and tell you all kinds of crazy shit about what you should do, who you should be, who you should date, where you should go, etc. And if you haven't like found that stability yet, then it's too easy for people who don't actually give a fuck about give an F about, you know, what your trajectory is, to kind of put you in places that you then get stuck in for a long time. And so if you can find that like security and that sense of self and just being like, no, actually, I don't know, but I know that these aren't the things that I want to do. And I know that like there are models out there, like the people here on the stage, that I can kind of like at least start to mirror my life after. That's dope. That's so awesome. I never saw anybody like myself. I wouldn't have, if I saw someone like myself when I was growing up, it would have happened a lot quicker. And so I think that that's why representation is so important, is because it's like, it's not so much about like, we just want to take over Hollywood. It's not really about that. It's just like, yo, can we paint a picture for all the different types of walks of life that exist out there for everyone that's coming up? Because if I can only paint my love life after, you know, Sarah Jessica Parker or whatever off of like, you know, Sex and the City, that's not my love. That's not how I approach love. That's not how I have sex. That's not how I engage with someone. So it's like, if that's the only type of love that I'm shown, then how do I know how to love? You know, how do I know how to dress if I'm only shown, you know, give me, I don't know, Leo. Like, that's why representation matters, because it's like we've all been painting our lives and our experiences based off of like these very, very, very limited views of how just all aspects of life exist. And there are a lot of different, I'm like trying to like look at everyone right now. Like, there are a lot of different walks of life out here. And I'm pretty sure not everyone's out here loving like Sarah Jessica Parker. Like, I just don't think that that's the case. Like, I'm making a lot of assumptions, I know, but I'm going to say that it's not everyone in this room, right? So that's why representation matters. That's why we tell the stories that we do, because we just want to show the breadth of humanity, of all the different aspects of how we can live our lives, and just reduce the gap that it takes for people to find themselves in themselves. So that's why I do what I do. Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. Let's see if I can get through this without crying. I'm also very cold, so I'm like shivering, so like that doesn't help. But anyway, yeah. I had one, but anyways. Yeah, representation, obviously it matters so much for, young people being able to see themselves and, like, be able to see that, like, yeah, I can do that, because I didn't think I could do this. Like, whatever this is, I didn't think I could do this, but, yeah, here we go.
You're doing it.
Every time.
You're doing it.
Okay. But, yeah, like, everyone, as you said, different walks of life, and, like, people have different types of bodies too, and like so many different kinds of intersections, and it's not just like, oh, you're just gay and like that's what you are. It's like, no, you're like this and this and this, and like that's cool too. And like there's so many different kinds of people like in my life too, and it's like I don't see them on screen. I don't see myself on screen. So that's why we're like making the content that we're making, and it's like super important to me. As how many times I've cried already, I don't know, but yeah, I'm just like inspired by my friends and like people up here. You can cry too. It'd be great.
Just loving
just do it.
You.
Just me
I'm
cry.
Just adoring all of this.
Yeah, I could like keep going. I'm gonna cry even more. But like how Aisha was talking about how like they're just figuring out things, and like I don't know, they seems okay. I'm like, yeah, me too. Yeah, like I always felt like a little bit of a late bloomer because like I don't know what's happening here. I don't know what all this is. But it's like you find people that support you so you can like do the things that you want to do and like be how and who you want to be, and that's why we're here, so we can just just live in life and like trying to support each other. And I think that's why it's important for representation to matter.
Can I wanted to, for both of, I have to, I'm sorry. I think it's very strange that other people feel so pressed, like a panini. They are pressed like a panini to like make someone else put a stake in the ground for their own comfort. Like, I don't know, it's fine. They, them is fine. Like it's on you for like, it's your comfort that like that you're trying to settle in your mind for like making someone else put a stake in the ground. And I find it so just unsettling that like other people like would make someone feel like they have to say definitively, this is how I, like, no, dude, like, figure your own stuff out. I was going to say a different word. I'm not going to say, figure your own stuff out and let me live my life. Like, I find it just so fascinating how, like, so pressed people are on, like, other people's lives and bodies. Like, it's, sorry, I just find it strange.
I think, like, getting, like, buddy, like, I work at Starbucks, so, like, customer service all the time, like, right? And I've gotten, like, buddy a couple times. I'm like, that's totally fine. But, like, one time I got ma'am, and I was like, what?
Yeah, it's weird.
Ma'am? I look like 15. I'm not a ma'am. I'm 25, by the way, so, like...
I walk with my friends, and people are like, hey, ladies. I'm like, what? I'm just like, which ladies? Lady in person? Cool.
See, I'm the opposite. When people call me chief, bud, like...
Champ,
I'm like, that is so demeaning for some reason. I don't. It's always like a white dude calling it to like another, yes. And I'm always like, why? Can you just be like, hello?
Yeah. Like, I don't know you. Like,
I don't get it. Also, just to jump in here, a quote that I learned at Buddy's, they had a guest facilitator come in, and she opened up the class, and I think it just speaks to like all of our experiences. Is this quote by, I think her name's Juno Diaz. She's a writer, and she has this quote that goes something along the lines of like, if you want to convince someone they're a monster, don't show them their reflection. And I like really believe in that. Like, for so long growing up, I never had an image of myself that was projected back to me. So I would watch Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, and the huge climax at the end is that like she's trans. This woman that everyone, kissed in the police officer station, and they're all like vomiting at the end because it turns out that she's trans. That's the climax of the film, and that's what I grew up with, and that's what I saw myself as. I don't want other kids to do that. I don't want other kids to think of themselves as gross or monsters. That's why I make my work.
Thank you.
We're a bit short on time, but I would really, really love to open it up to audience questions if we have a microphone. Thank you.
Hi, this question is for Louise. So I was wondering if you created the story with Maya in mind, or if you wrote it with her.
No, I didn't create it with her in mind. We actually had like a really challenging time finding a trans actress. Eventually, we had originally gone to the acting union ACTRA here, and out of all the members that they boast, they only had 2 who identified as trans, and they were both older than the age we needed them to play. So we started just reaching out to different girls in the community, being like, I don't care if you have acting experience, we're hosting these acting workshops. And Maya was someone that I had been following on YouTube for a while. So I invited her, and she came, and she like she is Chris. Like, she just was the part. So it was like, you got it. Also, just because I have the floor right now, it was really important to me that the actor was trans. In fictional films, there's a lot of representation, and they'll like make these films, and then all of a sudden they'll cast like a man in the role, and that's really problematic. Just because you're we keep seeing the same thing where it's like a man in a dress, and that's not what trans people are. And it also gives people the opportunity to kind of rethink their idea of what being trans is, because a lot of people will come up to me after the screening and be like, I didn't know she was trans, and I'm like, well, why not? And they're like, because she didn't look trans. And
what does that look like?
Exactly. What does that mean to look trans? Like, what does that mean? So it's a learning opportunity for people just to be like, oh, okay, she's trans and she's beautiful, and she can look like that and be beautiful. She can look like this and be beautiful. We're all beautiful.
Any more questions?
Yeah. All right. So this is pretty much for anyone who's like a nerd or like science fiction or fantasy or anything like that, because you mentioned that before. I pretty much like grew up on science fiction, fantasy, and all that. And since I was pretty lonely and like cut off, even though I did engage with the queer community, the media I consumed definitely helped me understand my own identity, like both my mental health and my gayness and my transness. So are there any like particular films or like media that you consume that you saw yourself reflected in, even if it wasn't explicit, especially in regards to science fiction, fantasy, and all that?
Like historical or even today?
I guess even today, like films and media that have queer themes that you like, especially in the realm of science fiction.
I started talking, so I'll add. Well, the only thing that's coming to my mind right now is just because I find this author so incredible is the Binti series. Is anyone familiar at all? No one?
Yeah. She's an Adrian author, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, that imagination is just phenomenal. Nindi, right? Like,
Nindi Okorafor. Yeah.
Nindi is just incredible, and it was really. It's not a queer story, although there is a trans character that makes the appearance like in the last part of the series, but it was a lot of like visibility for just like a brown, really really powerful person, and I was just like, that's the kind of stuff that I want to make. I highly, highly recommend the series, you all. It's 3 books, and they're pretty short reads, and it's in thinking about how to tell stories about bodies that are not like white cis dudes. The Binti series does an incredible job.
I not too long ago read Octavia Butler, and she has this character who, I mean, there's a couple characters in there like gods, and they go back and forth between gender and being, and like at one point she's a dolphin, and then she's a man. It's amazing. It like transcends just like everything. Also, side note, Octavia Butler also has another series that like takes place in like a post-apocalyptic state, in the post-apocalyptic United States, and like the president at the time uses religion as like fear mongering, and like his literally, this was written in 1997 or something, and literally his motto and like his saying is like, "Make America Great Again." I am not joking. It's crazy. Telling the future.
Not trying to go back to LA. I also wanted to add one more. We were talking in the green room about our favorite villains, and my favorite villain to this day is Mystique, because first off, she amazing. And I remember reading some like weird fan fiction about how Mystique like transformed her body to then get her girlfriend pregnant or something like that. And I remember being like, yo, I wasn't ready. I had to like literally like close it and just like look around like, what? That just happened. So, I mean, I think that like in thinking about science fiction is such a cool genre, because it's like we really do start to think about like things like that. Like imagine, like I would love to like transform my body and then, be able to get, my girlfriend pregnant. That'd be incredible. Like that would be awesome. I'm sure let me not go on that. Anyways, I'm sure it'd be great. But I think that like that's why I love science fiction, is because like once you like unlock some of the pressures and like the things that crush us down as like human beings in our day to day, and you just like walk and you just allow your imagination to go anywhere. It's when you can kind of like strip some of the confines of that are placed on our bodies. So.
One more question.
Hi. Okay, so the last, I would say like the film industry over the last like 100 years, and as well as like language of film, has been built by cishet white men. So my question is, how do you navigate the language of film, telling your own stories, and as well, how do you access resources to tell those films? Sorry if that's a difficult question.
All right. Yeah, I guess I can start with that. I don't like normally have resources. All the like stuff I've made is through like film programs that I've found that are for queer youth, and like through those you make connections with people or you find community, and like most of them are here, my queer filmmaker friends, and like that's super cool. So it's like I don't know how to do a thing. Do you know someone who knows how to do that thing? And like help me make it, and like I'll help you make it. And I hate networking, but it's like that thing you gotta do. That's how you get your resources, and like
the internet helps.
I got up here. Yeah. It's networking. So like that's super cool. But yeah, navigating, I guess whatever the industry is like. No, I don't want to do that. I want to make films with my friends, like 4 people, like, and just I guess try to get it out in like different ways and like to different audiences. Not through those mainstream channels, because they're not great.
I think for me, it's been about, thank you for your question, first of all, but for me, it's been about trying to kind of like fall into that false confidence in the film world until I'm able to build real confidence based on like pride in my work and like recognition. And mainly just not taking shit from anyone who thinks that I'm unqualified because I didn't go to film school, or I'm unqualified because, again, we were talking about this before, I haven't seen this one obscure film from 1902 made on a cardboard box or something like that. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, you don't know film then. And I'm like, fuck you. And it's also about talking about the things that I've done and achieved and succeeded in with not a lot. I also do want to recognize on a sidebar that I have had a lot of privilege. I have parents who are really, really supportive of everything that I do. Film-wise, like arts-wise, like they're amazing. Like when they let my brother become an animator, they were just like, yes, go and be an animator in the world. And he was like, okay, and now he's doing great. And I'm a filmmaker now. Like, you know, stuff is awesome. And they were really supportive with that kind of stuff. So yes, I have a lot of privilege, but in a lot of spaces, I don't feel welcome because there are those like white film dude gatekeepers who are just like, do you know what a grip stand is? And I'm like, no, but can you teach me, instead of being like condescending and annoying? And so I think for a long time I kind of just avoided those spaces because I was like, I don't want to go there. I don't want to apply for this grant. I don't want to do this thing. I don't want to go to this particular event because I feel like I don't know enough and I haven't done enough. And I tried to just kind of quietly make films on my own. And I've learned that like doing through finding like a lot of people who I can relate to, I've learned that there are other people who share those experiences and who are like, we don't like those spaces either, so we can be a team together. Because like I don't know, like I made a film last year largely on my own with a small team of people who were helping me doing like consulting and like helping me write it, but like I did a lot of that on my own just because I was just scared to go reach out to people and say, hey, do you want to do this? Because I was scared that they would think that I was not qualified to do certain things. So now I think it's really just like navigating that space is just like, if I don't know what something is, I'm going to just tell you, honestly, I have no idea what that means. End of story. Or I honestly have never heard of that director, or I've never seen that film. I'll write it down and maybe I'll think about it later, maybe. But right now I have things to do. You know what I mean? Right now, my task is to try to move away from this culture that you are forcing down everybody's throats, and especially as someone who didn't go to film school, but like I make my films on a DSLR with one lens, and I lug things around on the TTC, and yeah.
Well, now you're here. You're in these spaces, right? And now
I'm
you
freaking
can.
out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, you know,
That I'm
invite
here.
your friends. We're never leaving, so you know, everyone's gonna have to deal.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's all we have for time. But thank you all so much for being here. Thank you all for joining me this evening. Continue doing amazing work. You're all the best. Thank you.